morning. We're still in the book of Galatians. I'm going to look at Galatians chapter 4. Galatians chapter 4, beginning at verse 1, the Bible reads, I mean that the heir is, as long as he is a child, is no different from a slave, though he is the owner of everything. But he is under guardians and managers until the date set by his father. In the same way, we also, when we were children, were enslaved to the elementary principles of the world. But when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those that were under the law, so that we might receive adoption as sons. And because you are sons, God has sent the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. So you're no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir through God. I want to look at this a couple ways. Some of you, like myself, have grown children, and just this last year, we took one of our children, we dropped him off at school and at college, and sometimes those are emotional things, but that's kind of the point, is that we're not raising children, we're raising adults. We want them to mature, we want them to grow, and God wants his people to grow. He doesn't want us to stay children and be enslaved to elementary principles of the world. Think of this in Israel's slavery. When they were released from slavery, God delivered them through Moses. Many of them grumbled and complained and even thought about going back to Egypt into slavery. And God doesn't want that for us. God doesn't want us to be enslaved to anything. God doesn't want us to be enslaved to religion. In fact, God's purpose of sending his Son was to redeem us, that we would become sons and daughters of the living God. And he says, because you are sons, God has sent the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. He doesn't want us to be enslaved to religion or to rules. In some ways, that's not even really obedience. He wants us to know him as Father. And so our obedience doesn't become because we follow all these rules and we make sure we dot all the I's and cross the T's, but we are in love with God and we know him as Abba, Father, and we want to pursue him and his kingdom because we're in love with him, not because we're enslaved to rules. So don't be subject in any longer. You are no longer a slave, but a son or a daughter, and you're an heir through God. Love you, praying for you.